Right, welcome to this, the ShrimpsNet. It's the Shrimp Trust podcast. It's number 17. We said it was number 15 last week, so we've lost number 16 somewhere in the world, but I don't think anybody cares. So after a couple of smarting defeats on the road, we've plenty of things to talk about rather than the best EFL 11 of ever. And as usual, joining myself and Joel, we have a view from the boardroom with the ever-present Charlie Appleyard. Charlie, welcome.
Evening, Freez.
And a view from the coaching staff, stroke playing staff, stroke 100% managing record and goal-scoring goalkeeper, the goalkeeping coach, Barry Roche. Welcome, Baz.
Hello, fellas. Nice to finally have me on. I didn't realise there's been 17 episodes, Freez, and it's taken that long to have me on.
Yeah, that's why we've needed you on, Barry. And as I've said, we said just before the start, the EFL's greatest goalkeeper in the Morecambeshire, as voted for on this podcast last week. Is it not, Joel?
Yep. Categorical decision. Nobody's allowed to disagree with it.
Yeah, that's right. There's no discussion. So moving on, we've had no games to talk about because of the international break. We've had 2 games since then. Burton Albion last Friday and Cheltenham Town, which, if you're listening to this, was on Tuesday night. 2 defeats, 3-2 and 3-1. We'll start with Burton. Joel, you were there. I was there behind the goal, and obviously Barry was there, and Charlie was if he wasn't there, he was watching. A frustrating night, Joel. It could have been 6-1, but ended up 3-2, and I think the scoreline flattered us in the end.
Yeah, very frustrating night. I mean, it was quite good fun for a point. It was either a fun journey down. I promised I'd give Richard and Scott a little shout out instead of paying them petrol money. So thank you very much for driving me down. And when we got there, it was great for about 3 or 4 minutes when Liam Gibson crashes in his first ever professional goal, having a great time. And then it just and then obviously they get the corner. The lad who scored from a corner against us, he's done it again last night, on Tuesday night. So, it was a frustrating way to concede. Maybe that saw heads go a bit, and then getting that they can get a quick a second about 10 minutes later. And I think Burton are probably a side that you don't want to be a goal behind to, really, because they like to counter and keep solid, and they did. They kept quite solid. They got a long range strike for a third just to make them more comfortable, but they were pretty solid all game. They just made it quite hard for us to break them down, and then ultimately, that did make for quite a frustrating evening and a less happy trip back.
And I think you've very, very, very carefully avoided the minefield of who was guilty of what for the goals, which I think has been discussed enough. But I just want to touch on there's been a bit of a backlash after both defeats, but particularly after Burton with Anthony O'Connor, which I found rather strange because I thought he had a pretty good game on the night, other than losing his man for the free kick for the second. But obviously you could blame Kyle for the third and Adam Phillips for the first, but they didn't seem to get castigated. And I think it was a pretty strange thing to, our guest last week, Michael Gibson Posh, did some research and came up with 91% of interceptions for Anthony O'Connor and all tackles won. So it was like, I don't get just because he gave a goal away and all of a sudden he becomes this figure of it was all his fault. Joel, discuss.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the goal and itself, and yeah, I think looking back, he does lose his man, but at the same time, it's how the whole team reacted to the quick throw-in, which probably wasn't really quick enough, and we end up having with Cole chasing all the way back, which we don't really want him doing, to be honest. We'd rather him be staying up there. So I'm not. But then, yeah, I know, Connor. I think there were a couple of goal-saving tackles he put in, which were brilliant, really, really good. Like the kick the Burton player was. I think it's, when an attacker is kind of at full pelt, they're so hard to stop because they can just take the ball past it so quickly, and then either you're just kicking at thin air or you're very likely to give a penalty away. But he timed it absolutely perfectly. I thought he played the ball quite nicely as well when we had possession. But I think people look for a bit of a scapegoat. I don't know if maybe because people, obviously Lavelle has been a big figure around the club. I don't know if people have a bit of a kind of, I don't know, they kind of almost get like, oh, but he's not Lavelle about it. But look, he's a different player. He's got things he's better at than Lavelle was, and Lavelle's got things he's better at. But they're just different players. I think he's a good defender. And some of the criticism is totally unwarranted. He's done some really good stuff. Yeah, the odd error, but lots of errors. I think as a team we could defend better. So yeah, he's not the person to blame for our kind of recent struggles.
Barry, you were there on Friday night. It's always a tricky game at Burton. I remember the years of the conference when we played them at Eaton Park. It was like a home ground for us. We used to win every time. But since they moved to the Pirelli, we've not done particularly well. I remember Alex Kenyon scored them from about 6 inches once, so we won 2-1. But Barry, you were there. It was one of those games where they had a 20-minute spell where they could have got 4 or 5. And as Joel alluded to, a couple of great tackles by Anthony O'Connor, another one by Gibbo, where the guy was pulling the trigger and he appeared and took it off him. What was the feeling in the dressing room? Was it just like it's the one that got away because they just they were too quick for us? What?
No, certainly I wouldn't say they were too quick for us. We knew what to expect when we do our research. Certainly, as coaching staff on every team. They work incredibly hard. They put you under an awful lot of pressure. They press you high. They leave gaps at the back to press you high. And it was one of those things that we knew if we won the ball back and we got the first pass right, we'd cut them apart. But on the flip side, if they press you high and they do it well, it's incredibly hard to get out. And I think we found it really hard to get out. The disappointing thing for us was after such an incredible start to concede so soon afterwards. And I think looking back on it, it really knocked the wind out of our sails. Obviously the manner in which we conceded both goals in the first half, really, they were very poor goals from our point of view. And I think we never really recovered after that. We regrouped again at half time, but we never really got going again. We didn't move the ball like we can. We didn't create chances like we have been doing in recent games, and ultimately we didn't work their goalkeeper hard enough.
No, it's true. Charlie, a disappointing night that we were lucky to try and put behind us so quickly, but it couldn't quite work out that way, did it? Because
I wasn't there sadly. I was beating the Irish at Barry in the Parkinson's 4 Nations of Golf to England won the trophy. Thanks so much. So I couldn't make it, but I was watching on iFollow, and I was thought there was something wrong with my iFollow feed because they were so quick. I thought it was on like super fast forward because whenever we got the ball in, it closed down so quickly.
Yeah, they did.
And I was actually honestly checked the settings on the phone to see if it was on like 1.5 speed because there was so every time we got the ball, it bang on us. And what was weather like?
It was okay. It was quite a pleasant evening. There was sort of it started off. It looked like it was going to rain, but it didn't actually rain for long, did it?
Yeah, I mean, it was one of those things. Gibbo was so happy; he couldn't believe he could his right foot as well, top corner, and then it went in. It's just one of those things where it just seems to be heads drop a little bit, and we just need a confidence boosting win against Plymouth on the weekend, really.
So I'll move to Cheltenham on Tuesday night. Didn't go, but paid for the iFollow feed. And watching it there, I chose, for fairly obvious reasons, to listen to the Cheltenham commentary. And they were saying that for 41 minutes, they were far superior. And I suppose you can't argue with that, with like the chances that they had where there was one cleared off the line and a couple of headers where they maybe should have done better. But they only got 1 goal, and that was slightly fortunate. Again, long throw that we didn't quite clear, and it fell nicely for the guy, and he hit it well enough. But then the strange goal with Adam Phillips, the back pass, that was a back pass, and he took 30 seconds to pick it up, but it was a back pass. Great finish. But then there's a kind of turning point there, because we had a chance down the right-hand side. McLaughlin put a fantastic back post cross in, and obviously Greg Lee came in, and it smacked against the post. And that goal,
Phillips with the cross, I think.
Phillips, it was. Yeah, it was. Sorry, it was McLaughlin that played him through, and it was a fantastic chance, and it smacked against the post. And I remember that the Cheltenham commentators were like, "Well, that'd have been rough justice if that had gone in." And I'm like, "But hang on a minute, we've had loads of, they'd had one chance and then they'd scored. And the rest of it, they weren't on target. We'd had one chance and we'd scored. And then we had another chance and it was like, that'd have been rough justice. And I was like, it doesn't matter. If you're creating chances, you're creating chances. That was the turning point for me. If that had gone in then, we probably would have got something from the game, but who knows? Second half, I was a bit disappointed. I thought we were a bit wet. Joel?
Yeah, interesting adjective to use. Well, obviously looking at the weather last night, it was absolutely awful. So fair play to all those who travelled down it. But yeah, I thought we didn't play great, and then we got a bit of a stroke of luck with their goalkeeper picking the ball up somewhat inexplicably. Well, in fairness, I'd forgotten that it was a back pass. I had no idea it was going on for about 30 seconds. So fair play to the ref for remembering, because I didn't remember. But yeah, and then we get back into the game, and I think we were talking about confidence before, and it really did show how much momentum and confidence can be a factor in football, because we hadn't been great until that point, and then we get the goal back, and then suddenly we're all over them. And then, you know, like you say, Phillips sticks in the back post cross, and then Lee really unlucky to hit the post. And then second half, I thought we came out okay, to be honest.
First 10 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, I thought we were right at first, because obviously we put a bit of pressure on. We get the corner. You know, great little flicked header from Ant O'Connor. You know, again, you know, that's a bit of a turning point moment where, you know, Cole Stockton puts it in and he's
disallowed
for I think it was offside, but and then I think
the only one.
Yeah, Jonah goes through, Ayunga goes through, and you know, doesn't quite connect with the shot cross that he probably would have wanted. So, and then from then on, I think we kind of let control get away from us in the game, and I think, you know, it's one of those where I think we were talking before, obviously, about individual errors and taking and blaming individuals, but you know, their keeper made a really bad error last night picking it up, but the thing is, they didn't let that ruin their night. You know, they managed to recover from it, and I think, you know, that's worth remembering when people go and highlight and slam individuals for X, Y, and Z. At the same time, you react as a team to that, so you want to try and minimise the errors, but also, you got to react as a team and kind of pull together and work through that. So yeah, a disappointing night, but you know, like I think Charlie and Stephen Robinson have all kind of warned us about, you know, there are going to be times in the season where we're going to go on bad runs, and this is the kind of first time it's really been, I think, a bad run of results and form quite, you know, consistently over a couple of games. So, like, you know, it's a tough period, but you know, I'm sure, you know, the coach and staff and the players and, you know, Barry and everybody, you know, they'll all be working their socks off to try and fix it. So hopefully that can maybe start with Plymouth, but we'll see.
It was an interesting team selection, Barry, and it was obviously a risk which now we could say didn't pay off. But I thought it was worth trying, putting Anthony O'Connor in that mid, and you picked it, Joel, straight away. Credit to you in the fact that I when I looked at the team, I was like, what's he going to do there? And I had Gibbo alongside Toombs, and you said no, it'll probably be Anthony O'Connor, and it sort of worked for 55 minutes, didn't it, Barry?
Yeah, well, Ant played there in the past. I think he had a full season up there as playing as a six for Aberdeen. And I think after the previous two games, you know, we conceded 3 at Burton, 4 at Wickham. We felt that we needed to tighten things up a little bit. And you know, obviously with Alfie pulling out the day before injured, sort of circumstances dictated it as well. And we wanted to shore things up. And like you said, for 55, 60 minutes, it worked. You know, we'd gone in at half time. We thought, you know what, there's not an awful lot wrong. We certainly didn't feel lucky to be back in the game. We felt we deserved to be back in the game. We thought, you know what, keep doing what we're doing, step it up a little bit, and we'll go on and win the game. But again, like the Burton game, we didn't move the ball as well as we can. You know, and the second goal, you know, the timing of it. Obviously, no goal, timing of any goal is not good. But the second goal, again, knocked the stuffing out of us, and we never really recovered. You know, we had a couple of half chances laid on before they got third to get back into it. But you know, for us, I certainly didn't see it as a bad performance. You know, it wasn't a good performance by any means, but it just we just fell a little bit short. And I think even though Cheltenham are a promoted team like us, I think the big thing I've noticed in this league is you get punished a lot more. You know, it's a lot of our goals this season have been individual mistakes, individual errors. Whereas last year, I think you might get away with 50, 60% of them, but in this division, you don't get away with those mistakes. You get punished so much more.
That's a really good point, Barry. You know, I was at the Wycombe game, hammering it down. You know, we played amazing football. Sorry to go back over the game a few weeks ago, but you know, we moved the ball really well. We beat them at football, and all they could do is come out in the second half and lump it up to Vokes and then head it down. And when Ayunga scored that third goal, Stephen was near us, but he'd been sent off. He was in the director's box, fuming. And when that fourth goal went in, you know, everyone was like a sucker punch. Then was it Hartlepool next?
Yeah.
Absolutely hammer it down. You know, stuffing again. It's one of those things where we just need, you know, understandably, if you're going away from home, all that travel, Wycombe, Burton, Cheltenham, Hartlepool in a week and a half, sitting on the coach, you know, dwelling on things, piss wet through, pardon my friend. It's not easy. You know, but only 2 weeks ago, we were in Mazuma, dominating Lincoln, who were in the playoff final. We absolutely smashed them. Anthony O'Connor, man of the match for me that day.
He was, yeah.
3 days before we played at Accrington Stanley, where we had 10 men and 3 all. With the same team we were 2.5 weeks ago. But now, moving forward, we've got 7 in 8 or 6 and 7 at home.
Yeah.
The record's amazing at Mazuma. You need to get back on it and get some positive times again, because in any walk of life, whether it's illness or sport or if people keep punching you in the face, it hurts. But it's when you get out of those punches, it's like punching back, and then you get back on the horse, and then we start winning again. It's only a matter of time.
We've got to be, if you're going to use the boxing analogy, we've got to be a bit like our local hero, Tyson Fury. Get up off the floor and get about our business and start punching back. Because that's exactly what Tyson does. He's been on the floor so many times. Yeah. He never dwells on it. He gets up and, you know.
I think we've got to remember, I think Joel alluded to it earlier, you know, we're in League One for the first time in our history. There is going to be points in the season where you do go on a bad run. It happens to every team. Hopefully this is ours now and we get out of it sooner rather than later. Obviously, you know, ideally starting with Saturday, but it's certainly not the end of the world. It's certainly not the end of the world. We've had a few bad results, a few bad performances, but we'll dust ourselves off and go again Saturday and make sure we put things right.
I think, like I said, there was shall we say, there was a sort of hysteria growing on the Morecambe FC Facebook page, and I'll name check Neil Gowland, because Neil Gowland, who I know personally, who's a long time fan when we were absolutely terrible, and he's still a fan now. He posted on Facebook saying, "Please, can you tell me who won anything or who got relegated in October?" And I'm like, that's exactly the point, isn't it?
Yeah, we lost 5-0, 7-0 and 4-0 last season in the space of a couple of weeks. Admittedly, one of them was to Newcastle, but, you know, 2 of them were to 2 other League Two sides. So, you know, you bounce back, you go through these patches, and, you know, we end up having quite a miserly, horrible defence by the end of the season. So, hopefully we can just kick on and work through this kind of little bad patch.
Barry's right. The set-piece delivery is better for the opposition. The shots, I mean, those goals, Cheltenham's goal last night were pretty good. And number 28, I don't know his name, was running. He was amazing.
Yeah.
And you know, Cheltenham are like a mid-table team like us, hopefully. You know, and the difference between players is amazing, and you're going to get punished.
So I'm going to move on now and to something a little bit more positive. And I think that generally, I agree with you completely. Our performance at Cheltenham was better than it was at Burton. I think we all agree on that, despite the scoreline being worse. But the one thing that I thought we did miss was that in the Burton game, I thought our best player by some considerable margin was Alfie McAlmont, who never stopped running. He was probing, and he just showed exactly what he's capable of in that game. And I think it's taken him time to adjust, because obviously he's been on loan in League Two, and as we've all alluded to, it is a higher division. It's a better standard. And I was really disappointed that he wasn't playing last night because obviously he got injured. But he's come back. He looked like he'd come back from the international break with his head full of "I am good enough and I'm going to prove it," Joel.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's been a tidy player for us all season. He's had some good moments, but over the last couple of games, we've seen a bit more of that, the flashy stuff almost. Like some of those lovely switch passes he was playing were absolutely gorgeous. He's making a few kind of more dangerous runs into the final third. He finds a little pocket of space that Toons finds him in, turns good shot from the edge of the area, well saved. And even the goal, he swipes and he miskicks it, which ends up laying it off for Gibson. But the point is he's in a dangerous area in the box. We've got a throw and we've taken it in, and then Cole's flicked it on, and he's in the right area to be able to get on the end of it. So, I think we're seeing kind of a bit more to his game, and we've seen a lot already. And you can already tell he was a really good player, and we're just seeing a little bit extra kind of pizzazz in the final third, which is nice. But yeah, like you say, maybe it's in settling in a bit more. Maybe it's that sense of not only was he get called up to the Northern Ireland under-21 squad, he then pretty promptly got called up to the national team and played a full 90 minutes for them, not the international break before this one. So that's got to give you a bit of a leg up, a bit of a confidence boost. So hopefully he can only kick on from here once he gets back from his injury.
And I'll come to Barry now. Obviously, we're not doing. We've had one of them seasons where we haven't done particularly well with injuries. Don't get me wrong; everybody suffers injuries, but obviously, from that point of view, we have been. It has been just silly little niggles and things like that in training, and that must be quite frustrating from the coaching staff's point of view, because you're trying to get all your things across and thinking, right, well, we'll put this side out for Saturday, and as we've just said, Alfie twists something in training, and all of a sudden your plans are out the window. That's got to be frustrating, Barry, hasn't it?
Well, it is, especially after, like you said, Alfie was excellent at Burton. So we were looking for him to build on that last night. But the frustrating thing for us this season hasn't been the little niggles. It's been the really serious injuries we've picked up. The sort of the injuries that you don't often hear of. Obviously John Obika comes on at Burnley within a couple of minutes, tears his hamstring off the bone. He felt a little bit tight before that. I think he'd had a week, 10 days on the sideline. All of a sudden, he's out for 6 months. Jonah Younger, again with him, he felt a little bit sore in his knee after an incredible performance, second half performance, especially at Blackburn. And he's out for 6 weeks. And then Courtney Doofus as well. He was just feeling a little bit tight on his quad. And then all of a sudden, bang, another 2 months out. It's been in the striking role that it's cost us most. Obviously, Cole's more than stepped up to the plate, and his record speaks for itself. But those have been the really frustrating injuries for us. The ones that you can almost accept little niggles in training because of the workload and how hard the players work, and how much running they're expected to do on a training day and a match day, which is brilliant. But it's been the long-term injuries that I think has been the real frustrating and disappointing factor.
I think it'll come into play that we will need everybody we've got in the squad. We will need them to play some part. Obviously, yes, Obika, is a big miss, but also Courtney. Younger's looking like he's getting back in and getting into it now. But obviously, Aaron Wildig, he's been in and out. He's been suffering little niggles, and I think Aaron can be a big player because he was Shrewsbury's Player of the Year in this division. And I just think, Aaron's still got that in him, as he proved last year with scoring quite a few goals. So it is just unfortunate. Every team has injuries. But I think because we've had the squad where we've had 19 new signings, it has been a bit too sort of choppy and changey through those injuries. Because obviously we lost Ryan Delaney for a few weeks as well. And we've lost Gibson and blah, blah, blah. Then Cooney gets 5 yellow cards, so he's suspended just as he was getting going. So it's one of those things. But I suppose we've got to look at the positives and say, when Alfie comes back, hopefully he can carry on where he left off and still in the mindset of I am easily good enough for this division and carry on doing what he's doing. But we'll see. Right, I'm going to come to you now, Baz. Thank you for joining us tonight. I want to talk a little bit about your time as the custodian. As we mentioned earlier on in this podcast, you were voted by the panel as our greatest ever EFL goalkeeper, which, given how many seasons and how many games you played, it was a fairly easy choice, I would say, Baz, wouldn't it?
There's still always going to be those who disagree, Freeze. You know that.
Yeah, you're right. But to be honest, I don't think there is. I think that the other 10 that we picked, yeah, there was arguments, but I don't think there was any argument that you were, I mean, look at some of the games that you played for us and kept us, the 2 saves at Coventry City that kept us in the second division in League Two. That was a fantastic day. If you hadn't have made those saves, we might not have been where we are now, mate.
Yeah, it was a day that obviously I look back on very fondly. And funnily enough, it was a game that I actually really enjoyed, and I certainly wouldn't have said that would have been the case in the couple of weeks building up to it, or certainly in the week building up to it. I don't think I slept for a week because it was more than just the football team going down the league. Obviously there was people going to more than likely lose their jobs. The academy would have all the work that was put into the academy to get Cat 3. That was going to be in jeopardy as well. So it was a really, really difficult week building up to it. And myself, like Kenny and Kev, we tried to emphasise to the rest of the lads, how important this game was, not just in terms of their careers, but in terms of the livelihoods of other people as well. And thankfully, we all stepped up to the plate on the day.
Yeah, it was a strange game. Obviously, we took over 700 that day because the club very kindly laid coaches on. So that was a fantastic atmosphere. But I do remember that somebody texted us in after we were doing the commentary. Halcyon days. And we were doing the commentary and somebody texted us in after about 65 minutes and said Sky Sports had gone to, I think it was Paul Walsh or somebody like that, doing it at wherever it was, doing it at Coventry. And they came to him and said, what's happening at the Rico then? And he went, nothing, don't come back to me. They've both agreed they're going to draw 0-0. And that's what happened with 25 minutes left. And it was the ladies, excuse me, to me, to you, after you, no. And but before that, the first half wasn't like that, Barry. That's when you had to get the saves.
The first half, both teams had a right go. Obviously, they've had a couple of chances. Thankfully, I was able to get in the way. We've had a couple of chances. I remember Adam McGurk nearly got on the end of a brilliant cross from Kev, I think, at the back stick. But in the second half, given what was at stake, obviously for us and at stake for Coventry, they needed a point to get into the playoffs. The player, certainly from speaking to them on the day, their players on the pitch didn't know the result from elsewhere. I can't remember who it was. No. As it turns out, it was irrelevant because the rivals got beaten. But we were speaking to them, and to be honest, we were saying, "Well, listen, you need a point. We need a point. Don't do anything stupid." And there was one incident in the game, and I've seen it so many times. It was a little passing sequence between Sam Lavelle and Aaron McGowan, and they must have done 8-9 passes between them. But I know there was a lot of Barnet fans who said cheat and everything like that. But no, it was both clubs at the end of the day, certainly later on in the game, looking after their own interests. They didn't want to commit men forward and risk being caught in the break, and neither did we, because obviously to them, if they got beaten, they might have fallen out of the playoffs, and obviously to us, if we got beaten, we'd have been relegated. So it was just common sense, really.
It made entertaining commentary, I'll tell you. I was like, well, we could just pack up and go home here because nothing's going to happen. And we said that, and particularly with 10 minutes left, when everybody was making subs and the subs were walking off like they had lead in their boots, trying to waste as much time. And the ref was like, look, don't take the mick, just get off, please.
The best part about it at the end was I remember the board had just gone up for injury time and it was 2 minutes. So you're looking and go, I have not seen 2 minutes go up on a board in at least 6-7. It's usually a standard 4, maybe 3 at best. And the ball went out literally 10 seconds after the board had gone up, right in their corner for a goal kick. So their fullback picks the ball up, looks at the goalkeeper, laughs, puts the ball back down, doesn't throw it to him. The goalkeeper walks over, walks back, kicks the ball, final whistle goes. And it was just, the feeling of relief at the end of that game it was absolutely incredible. The stress and the pressure we felt going into that game for obvious reasons was it was difficult to deal with. But credit to the lads on the day. Certainly in the first 45 minutes we hung in there. We were hanging on a little bit at times. But the feeling at the end was one that I'll remember for the rest of my days. It was incredible.
And it's strange, Barry, because that wasn't that long ago. And look where Coventry are now, and look where we are now.
I know, yeah. Well, you look at it. It obviously playing those last 25 minutes at a walking pace worked well for both teams.
Yeah, obviously. So I'll move on now. Obviously, just not that much later, Jim and Ken decided that they had an opportunity at Fylde and took it, which is fine. And then you and the legend that is Kev Ellison were brought in, and you have a 100% record as part-time managers. Talk us through that day against Orient.
That one, I'll be honest, Freez, that was a long, long day. I don't think I'd eaten all day. It was just, it was a good week. The lads responded really, really well to us. We worked hard. Everybody, all the staff pulled together. John, Max, Squares, the physios. Everybody mucked in because obviously it was all completely new to me and Kev. And obviously we needed the help. But the day itself, the game was. I'll be honest. After the game, it was like, oof, imagine I couldn't imagine feeling that stress every week being a manager. But then on the flip side, you win the game and you think, you know what, I enjoyed that. It was really special. This is my club. I've been here for that long. I love it here. I love the club, and to be able to manage the team and to sort of myself and Kev to lead the boys out in that capacity was really, really special.
So how did it work? Did you argue with Kev? Or were you like, I always remember that story from Stuart Pearce where he used to pick the side the night before in bed with his missus, and he read the team out and his missus read, you can't start with 12. I'm not suggesting you were in bed with Kev, but did you argue? Did you argue, or did you just decide?
No, we didn't. We agreed on it. We agreed on it straight away. Probably the hardest thing we have to do was, obviously you're going from a player, albeit for just a short time manager, but they're your friends in the squad. They're the people you work with, you socialise with every day. And one of my closest friends is Alex Kenyon, and he still is to this day. But we decided for that game, we left Alex out, and that was a very, very difficult thing to do. But myself and Kev, like I said, we agreed on the team we wanted to play. We agreed on the way we wanted to play, and the lads carried out the instructions that were absolutely magnificent on the day. And I think the performance itself was excellent. I believe we deserved to win by more than 1-0 on the day. But given the goal that was scored by AJ, fantastic goal, and fitting to win any game. Yeah,
it was. You're right, and obviously. Your career as caretaker manager closed very quickly, didn't it? After that, because obviously, but then the one thing that happened was that sort of transition. You were a player, then you were caretaker manager, and then almost immediately as Derek came in, how did that work with Derek? Did he consider you still the keeper? Did he want you to coach? What happened there?
To be honest, excuse me, We played obviously myself and Kev took the Blackpool game in the cup, which we got well beaten. It could have gone differently if we had taken our chances. And then there was a Johnson's Paint or Papa John's Cup game on the Tuesday, and to be honest, I fully expected to play. Derek kept the same team, which is like, all right, fair enough. I'm thinking, well, hold on a second. I'd played 17 games in a row.
Yeah.
We went to Crewe, I believe it was. I can't remember if it was a Tuesday night or a Saturday, and we got beaten 5-0. And I thought, all right, brilliant. I'm going to be back in here. I took myself out of the team. Myself and Kev did. We felt we had to do that to manage it correctly. I took myself out of the team, and I thought, we've been beaten 5-0. I'll get back in now. And I remember we had a staff meeting on the Thursday morning, and we were setting out what we needed to do for the day. And at the end of the meeting, Les Dewar said to Derek, last comment, he goes, "Oh, you need Andre, Andre's kit for Saturday." I thought, with that, I'm like, what's going on here? So then Derek said, "Oh, I don't want you to be a player anymore." And at the time, I'll be honest, I wasn't ready. If I'd been on the bench all season and wasn't playing, then I think, okay, fair enough. But he just said, I want you to take the goalkeepers. And it came as a bit of a shock to the system. You know, I argued my point back. I said, well, hold on, so I've played 17 games in a row. I feel I'm still the best goalkeeper at this club. And he said, well, no, I don't want you to play anymore. I want you to concentrate on coaching. So I had to think about it, and coaching was obviously something I wanted to go in. I'd done my badges, and realistically, that probably would have been my last year. So I took the opportunity to move into coaching, albeit probably 6-7 months earlier than I wanted or anticipated.
So what you're saying is it was a great opportunity, but it came a lot earlier than you expected, and it was that must have come as a shock. I mean, obviously, you know Derek's going to be his own man. You know that now, but at the time, he came across as quite a decent, nice bloke, and it must have come as a shock because I know he doesn't sugar the pill, does he, Derek?
No. How do I put it politely?
I know I've put you on the spot, but
you can put me on the spot. You can ask what you want, Freeze. I didn't agree with his decision. It's as simple as that. But I have to look at the bigger picture. Yeah. You know, I was 37, going on 38, in a couple of months, and I thought, well, realistically, how much longer I'm going to keep playing? And I certainly didn't agree with his decision. In fact, I strongly disagreed with it. But like you said, I looked at the bigger picture and I thought coaching is what I want to do long term. And if this was going to be my last season, which it probably would have been, then I'll take the step now. Well, I didn't agree with the decision, not one little bit.
So it's actually with Jim taking Lee with him to Fylde, it sort of left a position there that needed filling.
Yeah. So I said to Derek, I said, listen, I do want the goalkeeping coach job, but there's a lot of at that time, and certainly around the leagues now, in Leagues 1 and Leagues 2, there's a lot of player coaches, goalkeeping coaches. And I said, listen, I want to still play, but I want the goalkeeping role. He obviously didn't see it that way, so he said, no, concentrate on the goalkeeping role. And don't get me wrong, I am very, very grateful for that opportunity, but I just felt that I still had something to offer on the pitch.
So, and here we are, a successful season last season, ending at Wembley. You had Kyle halfway through the season, Mark Olstead. How's coaching now with Kyle and Jock?
I love it now. I missed playing for the first couple of months, and I remember a moment I was sat in the dressing room at Bradford on New Year's Day, and just hearing the crowd out there, and that's when it really hit home. Like, bloody heck, I'm finished playing now, and I'll be honest, that hurt. But after that, I thought, you know what, listen, playing days are done. I've had a good run out of them. I've had a career of 22 years playing, which if someone had offered me that when I was a lot younger, I'd have bitten my hand off. So, my focus changed, and I'll be honest, I love the day-to-day coaching. I go in with a smile on my face, especially this season, and I love the work that I'm doing.
I'm going to let Joel. Joel will have more piercing questions, I feel. But I just want to touch on what you said. No wonder you come in with a smile on your face, because Kyle and Jock are both blooming mental, aren't they?
We've got a really good group of goalkeepers. Obviously, Big J, Kyle, Andre as well. Unfortunately, he's been out injured for the last couple of months, which really bad time for him, because we were and certainly are now, once he's back fit, looking for him to make the next step and start playing games, whether it be on loan or putting pressure on the goalkeepers. But it's a really, really good environment to be in. The lads all get on well. We've got the two young keepers, Joe and George, who come up twice a week with us as well. They've taken to it really, really well. But I'm very fortunate that I've got a really good group to work with, and who all work hard, help each other, and get on really well together.
Barry, you seem to be much more involved on the touchline in the games as well during the matches. Is that true?
Yeah, that's a big thing. Why I enjoy it a lot more this year. Every member of staff has got a lot more of an input and a say in things. So I'm not resigned to my half an hour on the training pitch to be just my work like it was. So it is a lot. We're a lot more involved this year, and I'm really enjoying it.
So is that because Stephen and Dermot just let you sort of like do your bit, as it were?
The goalkeeping coach, we do our bit, we're given sort of, I won't say free reign, but license to do your own work. Obviously, if there's something that, and it has been the case plenty of occasions, that the opposition style of play will, maybe it's crossing into the box, long range shots, long balls, stuff like that. If they want us to work on that coming into Saturday, we'll put sessions on designed for that. But in the last year, 18 months, it was literally you've got your half an hour on the pitch, and then that was your day done, so to speak.
Joel, I'm going to come to you now. I'm sure you've got far more interesting questions than I've asked, Barry.
Maybe more geeky. What I was going to ask, what are the main differences in things that you coach to the goalkeepers now compared to when you were a young goalkeeper being coached? What are the kind of main differences now?
Well, the game has moved on so much from when I was a young goalkeeper. It's a lot faster. Players are technically a lot better. So you've got to prepare the goalkeepers for that on a game day. Certainly with the step up in level now, the quality is a lot better. You go into places like Ipswich, Portsmouth, Sunderland, teams like that. The delivery from wide areas. It's not just. And I'm certainly not being disrespectful to League Two, but the delivery from wide areas, the set plays, they're a lot more accurate. So you're put under a lot more pressure. So you've got to be ready for that. And, we help the goalkeepers to be prepared for
that. When a keeper has had a bad game or made a bit of a mistake, how do you kind of approach things when you come in for training in the following days? Is there something that you go? Do you kind of address it, or do you just kind of move on and accept it?
No, you definitely address it. We've after every game, every player is given their own match clips, so it's just their involvement on a match day. So you'll go through, I'll go through all the goalkeepers' clips, and you'll highlight certain points, good and bad. I think it's important to tell, to praise them as well when they've done well. And you'll go through and say, well, what could you have done here? What could you have done better? And then once that's done, you move on and you focus on the day ahead, and certainly the next game. But you definitely have to address it. And I think all goalkeepers, certainly everyone I've worked with, they won't sort of turn a blind eye to it. They want it addressed. And then it's the same as when I was playing. If I made a mistake on a Saturday, the first thing I'd do as soon as the highlights of the coverage was out on the Sky Sports, I'd watch it. And no matter how bad, and sometimes you'd be looking, you'd be cringing, going, "Oh, please don't be as bad as I think it is." And then you're watching, you think, "Oh no." Then I'd watch it and think, "Right, well, I should have done this, whatever," and then it was gone, and then you move on from it. And that's what we try and do. Obviously, every goalkeeper is different. Some might dwell on it longer than others, but that's certainly what we try and press on the goalkeepers.
So with those kinds of errors, like obviously there are some errors that are big and glaring, and everybody knows they're an error. Are there sometimes those kind of errors that a lot of people probably won't pick up on, and even if it doesn't lead to a goal, that kind of stick in your head and wind you up a little bit?
I wouldn't say wind me up. No, we look at every goal. And obviously there's certain goals that the ball drops, let Preston fella smashed it into the top corner from 20 yards. No keeper in the world is going to save it. But every single goal we'll look at and we'll break it down and say, well, could you have done this? Could you have moved your feet more? Is your body position? There's always something that as a goalkeeper, because goalkeepers are their own biggest critics, and that's across the board. I say any goal, they are their own biggest critics. You will always feel that apart from that goal that I spoke, goals like that, there's always something that you feel, well, I could have done that better to keep that out. And we'll look at all the different aspects of the goal and what the goal and the goalkeeper's role in it to try and break it down to see, well, however small, could we have done something better?
That's interesting, yeah. So on to the trashier questions now. Who are your favourite centre-backs to play behind at Morecambe?
I promise to not listening. I can't promise.
Number one is Jim. I loved playing behind Jim. He was a proper leader, and he was old school, and he could head the ball further than anybody could kick it. But he made a goalkeeper's job quite easy and this is something you don't often see in the game nowadays. One, because I think the art of defending in this respect, I'm going to say, has gone out of the game a little bit, and two, because referees are a little bit fussier. But a high ball, a corner, a cross would come into the box, you'd call, and as soon as Jim would hear you call, and being how big he was, he'd grab 3 of them. He'd grab 3 of the opposition players, so you'd have an easy catch. But that's not really prevalent in the game anymore. As I said, for obvious reasons. I love playing behind Jim. I like playing behind Big Arts. He was a big no-nonsense defender. But I've been privileged to play behind some really, really good centre halves in the last 12, 13 years.
Safe to say, it's the big grizzly ones who do a lot of shouting.
Yeah, but I think you don't see that as much these days. You don't. There's a lot more across the board. There's a lot more football and centre halves than the big meatheads who just head and kick everything. But there is something to be said for that.
So, talking of more favourites in your time at Morecambe, what would you kind of pick out as some of your favourite games? Maybe aside from Coventry, because that's too easy.
Aside from Coventry, which that will be the favourite. The first time we beat Aki at home. It wasn't a classic. It was a crap game, and we didn't play well. But given everything that we'd endured over the years at the hands of them, last minute winners, the cheating, the histrionics, and everything like that, they were always horrible to play against. So to finally get one over on them was really, really special, and you could see how much it meant to everybody. All the fans, the players who had, like myself, who had been there over a number of years, and to see how much it meant to Big Jim at the final whistle. That was probably not in terms of the football played on the day, but in terms of how much it meant to everybody, and certainly how much it meant to me.
I would have hedged my bets towards Crewe back in 2010, I think it was.
Yes, that was a special one. But that was 5 minutes of the game, wasn't it? Really, because to be 3-2 down, 10 men with
3-1 down.
3-1 down.
If you remember, we discussed this last week, and it was Andy Parrish got sent off for handball.
Yeah. No, it was a foul. He pulled. I think it was Sean Miller. He pulled back.
It was Sean Miller, and he got sent off for that. And then they give handball from the free kick.
Yeah,
who handballed it? I can't remember.
No, it was. He got booked for the foul, and then booked again for the free kick for the handball.
And he went off. But then Sean Miller, you saved his pen. And I always tell this story that 2 of my mates walked out before the penalty was taken and went up to the York Hotel thinking, well, that'll be it, 4-1. And then could not believe it when it came on final score when they were playing snooker in the York Hotel, and it came on as we'd won 4-3.
Yeah, that was an unbelievable day. The Chesterfield game when we were 3 down at half time.
Yeah.
And obviously that's against one of my former clubs who didn't particularly like me very much. So I remember the equalising late on and sort of turning around and just look at them and smiling. The abuse I got was incredible. The Yeovil game as well.
Yeah, that was some game. That was in awful conditions.
It was horrendous. And then there was a game at home to Portsmouth I quite liked as well.
Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder why. That was 0-0 in the 92nd minute. And then what happened, Baz? Talk me through it. Talk me through that day. Talk me through that game. That was fantastic.
Well, it was. I remember because it was a really, really windy game, and we took the win the first half. We were 1 down, and then it was all right. We had to change the way we played completely. So if we go anywhere near long, it's just going to come back on us. And we played some really, really good football in the second half. But Jim was always great because as soon as it got into injury time, as long as there wasn't more than 5-6 minutes left, I'd have a look over. He'd give the nod, and I could go up. And I remember going up, and I just had a really, really, because I'd had a couple of chances in previous years. I remember I put a header onto the roof and then at Torquay. We scored at Oxford late on when I was up, but it was the first time I had a feeling. I thought, I'm going to score here. And yeah, it was brilliant because the brilliant thing for me going forward is every time you go forward, no one knows who to pick you up. They've all got assigned markers. And then they sent some fella, I can't remember who was, to pick me up. And he must have been only 5'9", 5'10". And he kind of looked up at me like that. And I thought, I've got you here. And I managed to get a little glance on the header. And I remember looking back at it, because at the time, I had no idea how it had gone in, because I'd headed it, the crowd, erupted, and I went ballistic. But then looking it back, and it was lucky because I had the run on the centre halves, but it was a ball that their goalkeeper never in a million years should have come for. But he just made a really good save from Lee Molyneux. And obviously when as a goalkeeper, when you make a really good save, sometimes you feel, I've got to get involved again. And he'd come and he tried to get over 3 or 4 players, and thankfully I was a little sort of glancing header. And even then, it crept through 2 players on the line that just didn't react. Adam McGurk actually being one of them who played for us the year later. So yeah, it was a special night.
Very, very, and that put you down in folklore, really. And the rest, I like you, all the games you said. The rest is history. You've been in how many? I didn't bother looking up. Joel will be able to tell me how many games he played. Now he'll have it. You will have it there, Joel, won't you?
It's not on my head, but I can pretty quickly look it up.
Oh, okay then.
Unless Barry knows already.
8,724.
How much?
8,724.
Yeah,
I think
it seems like that. And when Barry said,
580 league appearances, I think, and then 40, 50 cup games.
I liked, as Joel's looking this up, I liked it when Barry said that it was a different game when I started. And I had this picture of blokes in long shorts and Brill cream in black and white running really quickly. Sorry about that. I don't know. It just came to me and I was like, did he start with Jimmy Greaves or something? I know you say you're old, but you're way younger than me for a start. So
I feel it certainly every morning I get out of bed with this hip.
Have you got it, Joel?
Sorry, yeah, still waiting a bit. Oh, God, I'm looking on Transfermarkt. Oh, here we go. I think overall it is. Let me work that out. Oh,
There's something in brackets I can see.
I think it's 621 overall.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Oh, 621 games. Well, blooming heck. And 1 goal.
Only 1 goal.
No, but 1 goal. 1 goal. That's good enough for me. Right, I'm going to move to Charlie now. Charlie, nice to have you back. We've missed you. You did really well on the golf. I noticed on your Facebook page you met a lot of famous people and a lot of famous golfers, didn't you?
It was fantastic. We raised 160,000 for it.
That's amazing.
It's great, yeah. Brilliant. But more importantly, we had 33 Parkinson's golfers playing, representing their country. All had a great time, families, friends, friendships made forever. It was fantastic, really, really great. It stopped me doing Morecambe job for a week or so. So yeah, apologies for being away.
Yeah, but you're allowed a week off, Charlie. You do more than your fair share. So, yeah, okay. Charlie, you're our man behind the scenes, usually with some boardroom updates. What have you got for us?
I've actually got Ben Sadler's October boardroom update for the boardroom meeting on Friday.
Okay. So we get beside. If there's anything like cut Barry's wages by 20%, I'd leave that bit out.
I'll leave that bit out, yeah. But basically, Ben's been brilliant, as you know, and has formulated a plan alongside the Morecambe Football Club's plan to do with the non-football staff, which he manages, which has been fantastic. We've had a head of finance, don't know if you know that, starts soon. He's been working hard on the culture piece, working with the new staff and getting together. We've got an org structure. Everyone knows their job, everyone's got a job description, everyone knows their stand. We want the football team, as Barry knows. I did the football side. Everyone a contract and job description is a very tough gig. But Ben's done the whole thing on the non-football side, which has been great. And the drilling started, the piling started on the back of the Bards card stand. That's going to be done between home games. We've also got a lot of home games coming up.
I was going to say that must be quite awkward, mustn't it? Because we've got that. It's typical that we've just started now, when we've just had 3 weeks where we've had no home game, and we're just starting when we've got like 5 or 6 in November.
It is typical, but we promise we get this done. It will be done by 2046, we promise. But it will get done, along with the chips and the mushy peas. But hospitality's been going great. And look, just reading all this, the media team have been fantastic, as you know. Fitted in really well. The playing staff and the coaches have really welcomed them as well. See that picture of Les having a lie down on Twitter? Brilliant. And also we've got some exciting news coming out about Morecambe Ladies Football Club for next season, which should be great. And I've got a big announcement to make tomorrow. Shame the podcast hasn't been announced today. It's been today instead of tomorrow, but going to be a big, big positive announcement tomorrow, which I'll text Freez and Joel about first before I announce it.
Bless your heart.
I think the main thing I wanted to say was that, December 2019, Wakefield and I went to Plymouth. That was one of our first games when we were, Derek had taken over, we joined the board. We lost 3-0. We were absolutely hammered. It was really looking like we were going to get relegated. Derek had only had one game or two to settle in, long journey. Now, we're playing on Saturday in League One. We've come so far. I just think we need to check ourselves a little bit and be thinking that, we're trying to be a sustainable League One football club. That's our aim. And 3 bad results in the rain doesn't make us a bad football club or a bad football team. We've got to get back on it. Hopefully we'll get a good crowd on Saturday and look how far we've come and appreciate it rather than get frustrated at it. And everyone in the football club, football, non-football, coaching, non-coaching, is behind the manager and the players and the staff. So we need everyone to be as one on Saturday as well. I'm sure they will be, but let's just keep being positive as James and Graham and Rod and I try to make sure the whole club is. So positive moving forward for the rest of the campaign.
Thanks, Charlie. And I think on that point, I'll move straight to the Plymouth game. Top of the league, in fantastic form. We're not in great form. Nothing can possibly go wrong. It's an ideal scenario for us to, vanquish somebody who's supposedly bigger, better, bolder. We've upset people already this season. I could be completely wrong, and you could be complaining and saying you don't know what you're talking about, which is true. I don't, but I've just got a funny feeling about Saturday. Joel, Barry, you?
I hope so. I mean, it has got. Look at them; they're absolutely flying. They've won 4-0 against Bolton on Tuesday night. I don't know if you. Oh, sorry, it's 3-0. But if you watched their third goal, which was very
comedy gold,
very
comedy
funny.
gold.
So they're flying at the minute, and fair play to them. They look like they're posting great stuff. We're having a bit of a sticky patch at the moment. So as we all know, because this is how football works, we'll win 1-0 with about 25% possession. Just how it goes.
I'm just hoping that they haven't brought their canoes and kayaks for Saturday, because it is due to rain a lot between now and then. Because Plymouth looked like they used to that rain, didn't they, Baz?
Yeah, that was incredible last night. We got back on the bus. It was quite wet down at Cheltenham, but seeing the third goal for them last night, I haven't seen something like that in a long time. But it's going to be a tough game. Of course, it is. They're in really good form. The confidence is going to be sky high, but there's absolutely no reason at all why we can't. Obviously, we're going to have to step up from our, the last couple of performances. But there's no reason why we can't go and get something from the game. Absolutely none whatsoever.
And another good crowd, hopefully, Charlie, because Plymouth will bring a few, being top.
Yeah, I think it's got the makings of a really good opportunity for the club to get another big crowd in and get the atmosphere going in the Mazuma and really push on. Is it 6 out of 7, Joel? Next 6 out of 7 at home?
I think so, yeah. So
yeah. I think someone put the stats on Twitter the other day about our Fortress Mazuma. It really is a very, very great stomping ground for us. So let's keep fingers crossed. And even if we do, lose by the odd goal, as long as we can put in a solid performance to try and get back on track and have a heads held high, and I think anyone will begrudge it. Just a really strong team performance.
So before I move on and we finish with Joel and a bit of an update on what's going on in the AGM of Shrimps Trust, the final question that we're all hanging on, Charlie, how are you getting on with the mushy peas? Are we still going to get processed with our pies?
Where it's going at the moment, I'm losing the battle. It's number one on my agenda, my campaign agenda for next season, but I don't think I'm going to win. No,
he's Charlie had to send me a text saying, "Have you seen me picture of my header on Twitter?" And it was it 2 shrimps on a bed of mushy peas? Yeah. And I sent him back, "Are you sure they're not processed?" "No, they're mushy, definitely." Got to do it. Right, Joel. AGM Shrimps Trust. This will go out probably before it, and people will listen to it after us. What have we got planned?
Yeah, so it is on Thursday the 21st, 7:30 in the suite, in the local choice suite at the ground. We were hoping to have a couple of players down for a Q&A afterwards. Unfortunately, that's not been able to be the case due to increased COVID protocols with the rising cases at the minute. So unfortunately, it's just one of those that can't really be helped, unfortunately. But you know, we're still hoping it's going to be a good night. There'll be a run through of all the trustings over the past year, the projects we've done, all the finances and all that fun stuff. And then we've got, most importantly, we've got a cushion of. You remember Liam Gibson and his shoulder injury against Blackburn? Well, obviously with shoulder injuries, they don't really want to make you go like that to take a shirt off, so they cut it off him.
Cut it off him, yeah.
And it has been turned into a delightful little cushion. And you get a raffle ticket on entry. So why the hell wouldn't you come to have a chance at winning a little cushion that says 22 Gibson on the back? Lovely.
Unique. Was there? Is it going to be filmed, or is it going to be streamed, or what's going to happen?
Well, the initial plan was to film the Q&A. Unfortunately, if that's not going to go ahead, that won't be there. But if we do end up filming something, we'll keep you updated on socials throughout the day.
And we can perhaps do a bit of an update when we do next week's podcast as well.
Exactly, definitely.
So this has been ShrimpsNet number 17. Thank you to our usual guests, obviously, Charlie, with his updates. Thank you for that.
No worries.
Barry, brilliant to talk to you, mate. Absolutely fantastic. We've wanted you on since about the third week, but it's not worked out up to now. So if we have you on again, Joel, I'll have even more interesting questions, and I will find out some. What I'll do is I'll troll the decks and look for your great saves and your near misses, because as soon as you said it, I remembered you hitting the top of the bar and then bouncing over at Torquay. As soon as you said it, I was like, oh, God, yeah, you did. You got close then. So, yeah, I'll remember that one. But thanks for joining us, Barry. Joel, brilliant as usual. This has been ShrimpsNet 17. I hope you've enjoyed it. Join us next week when we'll talk about that remarkable 3-0 win over Plymouth. And obviously update you on what happened at the Shrimps Trust AGM. Thanks for
Come in, Shrimps.
Up the Shrimps.
Up the Shrimps.